Hi, I'm Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of RegAlytics, and I know my last week report was a little bit different, but what's so amazing about it is that it's completely moot now that Biden stepped down, plus the CrowdStrike issue. So this is exactly what RegAlytics is for. When you get a market shock, a black swan event, and some sort of issue comes out of nowhere and you need to get a handle on the facts, that's what we're for. It's great because you read it and it's not about what people think, but what about the real regulators are saying aloud about the issues. You can tell where they're going or see the actual laws introduced and the ones that are passing, so you understand what your obligations are and the actual cases filed, so you completely understand potential consequences. It frankly makes life a lot easier because you can worry about something, but you don't need to act until there's a really good reason to act. And you, by using RegAlytics, will have the earliest notice of when you need to act. This week, there were 26,537 regulatory alerts, but I'm just going to focus on two things and two things only. One, the CrowdStrike blip, and two, Kamala Harris. So let's start with CrowdStrike. As of July 23rd, because I do film the day before I published the video, there were 21 regulatory alerts on CrowdStrike. That's it. That's a very finite pool. Previous to July 19th of this year, there were only 5, and they were all the DC City Council bills to authorize payment to CrowdStrike. So clearly, the DC City Council was impacted. But then we get to the day of. Nothing from then until there. So on the day of, there were 16 alerts from 7 states, 1 federal agency, and 2 non-US central banks. As for the 7 states, they basically announced that they were personally having outages. As for the federal agency, it was who you would expect, CISA, the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. As for the non-US central banks, the Reserve Bank of India commented that they knew that most of the banks in India were not impacted, and CrowdStrike is not a part of their critical infrastructure. In contrast, the Bank of Israel had outages. Finally, there was one CEO alert that came out from the Independent Community Bankers of America warning bank CEOs about the outage. So at this point, the lesson learned is that the financial services sector is pretty well regulated and prepared for impacts like these. But it doesn't seem like many other industries have similar networks and solutions for this. So we shall see what new laws come out over this incident. And now, Kamala Harris. Again, I keep my politics to myself, but I will tell you that I had actually noticed how little she appeared in RegAlytics at the beginning of her term. And I can now verify that it wasn't my imagination. There were only 28 alerts about her in all of 2020, total, and only 5 of them were from the White House. In 2021, it grew to 197 alerts, with 112 of those coming from the White House. But then we get to 2022, which is 464 alerts, with 369 of those coming from the White House, which meant she was on the move, giving lots of speeches, and it also created an uptick of not only federal, but state and a few international alerts. Then we get to 2023 with now 492 alerts, which is just shy of 500. And now we are into 2024, and so far the state alerts and international alerts have already passed all of last year. So now, of course, I could do a sentiment analysis on it of what people think of varying policies and what's being discussed and who's responding in what way. But that's the fun part. That's the part where you call me and we talk about getting you what you need. So that's it this week for RegAlytics. We have the global supply chain of the world's regulatory alerts in one very easy to use place. And if you need a solution for anything related to regulation, give us a call.